Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a really significant topic.
We are?
It's about how ADHD, really weaves into romantic relationships.
Yeah.
And you, our listener, you've given us a fantastic range of sources. We've got stuff from ADDA, Simply Psychology, a Silo review.
Medical News Today, Harley Street Mental Health.
Right, and even a Reddit thread with some really personal stories, plus practical bits from 80 to 2.
It's a great mix. Scientific reviews alongside, lived experiences.
Exactly. So our mission here is to kind of pull all these threads together.
Synthesize it.
Yeah, synthesize it, find the practical understanding, the actionable insights for anyone who's in a relationship where ADHD is a factor, whether it's you or your partner.
And it's interesting how these different views, they sort of converge, don't they? They paint this really multifaceted picture.
They do.
It's not just, here are the problems. We're also seeing some maybe unexpected strengths that can really bloom in these relationships.
Absolutely. And we need to talk about the challenges, for sure, but also those strengths. First, though, let's unpack some core issues. How ADHD actually reshapes things between partners.
Okay.
A big one that just jumped out from everything was emotional regulation.
Oh, definitely. That's central. It shows up in, well, a few key ways.
Like,
Well, emotional impulsivity, for one. Those sudden bursts of feeling anger, excitement, frustration, they can feel pretty intense for a partner.
yeah, overwhelming even.
And then there's rejection sensitivity, that feeling like hyper alert to criticism. It might come from, years of feeling misunderstood because of ADHD stuff. So it's kind of a protective thing.
Okay.
And mood swings, too. That up and down can leave a partner feeling like they're, well, walking on eggshells sometimes.
Yeah, I saw a quote about that in the Simply Psychology piece. Someone said, I get easily overwhelmed when he gets excited because he yells, and sometimes I'm not sure if he's yelling because he's angry or excited or passionate or all of the above.
Wow. Yeah. That really nails it, doesn't it? How tough it can be to read those intense emotions.
And Attitude also talked about that emotional intensity being core to ADHD. It's not about whether the feelings are valid.
No, it's the expression.
Right. It's the way they come out in the relationship.
And if you think bigger picture, these regulation struggles, they can kind of quietly chip away at trust, create distance. A partner might, hold back their own feelings or needs because they're worried about triggering a big reaction.
Which leads to feeling disconnected
Exactly.
over time, yeah.
Okay, so building on that, another huge area is inattention and forgetfulness.
Right.
Seems maybe minor on the surface, but the buildup, the cumulative effect.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely not minor in its impact. These small things, they really add up.
Right.
Difficulty really listening, maybe seeming distracted, forgetting important things, dates, plans, even whole conversations.
Yeah.
It can easily make the partner feel like, well, like they don't matter as much, not a priority. The Simply Psychology article hit on that, how the non-ADHD partner often ends up being the reminder in chief, which can slide into that parent-child dynamic.
Yeah, and that breeds resentment, doesn't it?
Totally. There was a quote, my partner with ADHD definitely heavily relies on me to manage his life. It can feel like a lot.
That imbalance of responsibility, it's draining.
And the article also mentioned, sometimes it's poor short-term memory, even when they are trying to listen.
Right. It's not always intentional neglect.
No, but Medical News Today pointed out the feeling of neglect is real for the other partner.
And that raises a big question, doesn't it? How do you have a real partnership when one person feels like they're always carrying the mental load of remembering, organizing for two?
It's a massive challenge for just, sharing a life.
It is.
And it connects right into the next thing, impulsivity and hyperactivity.
Oh, yes.
We often think physical restlessness, but it's broader in relationships.
Oh, much broader.
Yeah.
Interrupting conversations. That's a classic one, right?
Makes you feel unheard.
Definitely. But impulsivity can also mean, impulsive spending, big financial strain,
Ooh.
or even impulsive breakups, really rash decisions that shake the feeling of security.
Medical News Today had examples like blurting out something hurtful.
Yeah, in the heat of the moment.
Or impulsively saying yes to everything without really thinking it through.
Right, that overcompliance.
And the hyperactivity piece,
Yeah.
it's not just fidgeting.
No.
Medical News Today mentioned excessive talking, finding it hard to just relax, unwind, and even big differences in sex drive sometimes. That can cause real tension.
Absolutely. It's all these ways the core symptoms ripple outwards into the intimate space.
And connecting back, like you said, impulsivity often has that strong emotional driver behind it.
Yeah, that sudden urge to say something, do something, often comes from a really intense, immediate feeling.
Okay, let's dig into organization and planning difficulties. This came up so much.
It did.
Yeah.
Especially around, like, household stuff, managing life together.
So how does ADHD impact that?
Well, it often affects those crucial executive functions. The brain skills for planning, managing time, organizing things, working memory.
Right.
So you see time blindness, chronic lateness, maybe messiness with belongings or finances,
Yeah.
procrastination. These aren't just quirks.
No, they create real imbalance.
Exactly. Simply, psychology talked about frequent fights over chores, who does what, how it gets managed.
And the Reddit thread had such raw examples, like someone whose partner just doesn't take out the trash or clean no matter how many times they ask.
Yeah.
Medical News Today had that example of forgetting to pay bills or locking the cleaner out because they grabbed the wrong key.
Simple mistakes, but they add up.
They really do. Constant extra stress, extra burden on the other partner.
It really shows how ADHD can totally unintentionally lead to this huge gap in who does the work in the house.
Both the physical work and the mental work.
Right. It's often not about wanting to avoid it, but a genuine struggle with those organizational steps.
Okay, then there's hyperfocus, which sounds like a superpower, right?
Yeah.
Intense concentration.
It can be, but yeah, it's got a challenging side in relationships.
How so?
Well, while it's amazing for work or hobbies, it can mean the partner gets overlooked. Their needs get unintentionally ignored when the person with ADHD is zoned in.
Okay.
And that difficulty shifting focus, it can kill spontaneity. The non-ADHD partner might feel emotionally disconnected, less important, if they try to connect and just can't break through that focus bubble.
Simply Psychology noted that. That intensity makes it hard to be present sometimes, spontaneously. Creates distance.
It's a really tricky balance to find.
It sounds like it. Which brings us to relationship boredom and seeking stimulation.
Right. That initial buzz of a new relationship.
Yeah.
Lots of dopamine. Especially appealing, perhaps, for an ADHD brain.
But what happens when the shine wears off? Naturally.
Well, Simply Psychology suggested the ADHD brain might sort of get over things faster once that initial high fades,
Okay.
leading to this constant search for novelty, new experiences, which a partner could easily misunderstand.
Like thinking it means lack of love or commitment.
Exactly. If they don't understand that neurological need for stimulation, it can make sticking with the routine maintenance, which all long-term relationships need,
Yeah.
a real challenge.
So it highlights how important it is for couples to actively keep things fresh.
Yeah, proactively.
Mm-hmm.
Find new ways to connect. Build excitement together. Can't just coast on the initial spark.
Okay, and finally, let's talk emotional labor and mental load. That Reddit thread was so revealing.
It really was. And it highlighted the difference between just like splitting tasks
Uh-huh.
and the actual thinking work involved, the planning, anticipating needs, managing it all.
Right. Someone on Reddit said it was their job to notice that their partner needs a list.
Yeah. And then having to make the list, that's emotional labor right there. The thinking before the doing.
And the frustration when the lists don't get used or having to prompt for really basic stuff.
Hmm.
That gut-wrenching question on Reddit, does he not have eyes? It really speaks to that difficulty some partners have just seeing what needs doing.
Yeah. Even small things like forgetting soap in the dishwasher, giving visual reminders.
Yeah.
It shows that difference in how tasks are seen and managed.
And the parenting examples were stark, expecting one partner to always prompt for basic care, like feeding the kids.
Right. And the contrast between a partner who just does nothing versus one who's proactive, it shows that uneven load so clearly.
The thread also clarified mental load, the planning work, versus emotional labor managing feelings around it all.
Useful distinction.
And that personal story about missing FAFSA deadlines, university registration,
Oof.
it just shows how these executive function issues have real-world impacts that often fall on the non-ADHD partner.
Yeah. It's a cycle that can really build up resentment. A lot of it.
Definitely. But, okay, crucial point.
Yeah.
It's not all challenges.
Absolutely not.
The sources also pointed out some really positive things, unique strengths ADHD can bring.
Yes. So important to talk about these too. Moving beyond just the problems.
Like increased passion and intensity, that came up a lot.
It did. And it's interesting, that same emotional intensity that's challenging to regulate
Yeah.
can also be a huge asset. It can mean deep empathy, real excitement for shared stuff, this incredible zest for life.
Which can be really energizing for a partner.
Totally. Simply. Psychology even mentioned research linking ADHD symptoms with experiencing more passionate love.
Interesting. And then creativity and spontaneity.
Yes. The novelty-seeking brain often comes up with really unique ideas, is more willing to try new adventures. It adds spice.
Keeps things from getting dull.
Exactly. And when that hyperfocus we talked about gets turned towards the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
people with ADHD can be incredibly devoted, supportive partners. Really go the extra mile.
Openness and authenticity were mentioned too.
Yeah. Less filtering of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes tough, sure, but it can also mean more direct, genuine expression.
Yeah.
Builds intimacy on honesty.
Vulnerability.
Right. And don't forget resilience and problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, living with ADHD often forces you to be adaptable, resourceful. That translates into unique ways of tackling relationship problems, creative solutions.
Simply Psychology had that quote about a partner being super loyal, great in a crisis, surprisingly good at multitasking sometimes.
Yeah. So it's a real mix.
Okay, so we have these significant challenges, but also these real strengths. What about strategies? What did the sources say helps manage it all?
Right. The key thing, really, that came through everywhere was that it takes proactive effort from both partners.
Makes sense.
Education is massive.
Yeah.
Both people learning about ADHD, the symptoms, challenges, and the strengths.
Cuts down on misunderstandings.
Hugely.
Yeah.
Like the Simply Psychology quote, after learning about my partner's symptoms, I realized that I shouldn't be taking his forgetfulness personally.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, that is huge.
And consciously focusing on the strengths. Actively noticing and appreciating the good stuff, passion, creativity, support.
Shifts the dynamic.
It really can.
Yeah.
And finding ways to use those strengths, maybe hyperfocus gets channeled into planning a date night or researching a trip.
Play the strengths. Okay.
Structured planning also came up a lot, like weekly check-ins to go over schedules, shared planners, digital calendars, reminders.
Practical tools.
Very practical.
Care.
Psychology suggested setting aside dedicated time each week just for couple planning.
And fighting that boredom tendency. Maintaining excitement.
Yeah, being intentional about it. Trying new things together, supporting individual hobbies too, shaking up routines, having shared goals, being spontaneous when you can.
Physical stuff, mental stuff.
Both. Keep it dynamic.
Flexibility and compassion seem vital too.
Oh, absolutely. Understanding symptoms fluctuate. Approaching issues with empathy, being willing to adjust plans. Harley Street Mental Health had a good tip on just, like, rephrasing concerns gently.
Instead of blaming.
Exactly. And clear communication. That's foundational.
Like.
Active listening.
Yeah.
Pausing before reacting. Using I statements, I feel X when Y happens. Regular check-ins to catch issues early.
Basic good communication, but maybe extra important here.
Probably, yeah. And empathy is ongoing. Keep learning. Keep talking honestly. Practice patience. Offer encouragement.
Build that emotional connection actively. Prioritize intimacy, manage expectations together, work on shared goals.
Yes. And practical support helps too. Offering help with tasks, but still encouraging responsibility. Having routines can create stability.
Structure.
Structure, yeah.
Yeah.
And boundaries are key. Medical news today really stressed this.
How so?
The non-ADHD partner isn't the parent, not the supervisor. Defining what's okay and what's not preserves respect.
Right. Avoid that parent-child trap again.
Exactly. And self-care for both people. Managing stress, looking after physical and mental health, it benefits the relationship overall.
And remembering you're a team.
Yeah. Tackle the ADHD challenges together objectively, not blaming the person.
Using tools helps too, right? Sticky notes, calendars, phone alerts.
Simple things can make a big difference day to day. And of course, professional help. Couples therapy, especially with someone who gets ADHD. They can offer tailored strategies for communication, coping. Resources like CHED or ADA can also help.
And ADTitude had specific tips for managing that emotional intensity we started with.
Right. Understanding the brain science behind it. Taking responsibility for behavior, ADHD explains, doesn't excuse self-awareness, maybe medication or exercise.
Addressing other conditions too.
Yeah, coexisting conditions, talking openly about rejection sensitivity, agreeing on boundaries. They even suggested like a 5-second rule for impulsivity.
A pause button.
Kind of, yeah. A moment to think before reacting.
Okay, and that silo review mentioned cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT.
Yes, as a really solid evidence-based approach for adults with ADHD, often alongside meds.
And it helps with more than just core symptoms.
Yeah, that's the key. It helps improve daily functioning overall, tackles negative thinking patterns, helps manage stress, frustration, improves emotional regulation.
Practical skills again.
Definitely. Organization, problem solving, impulse control, time management, all things that really impact relationships.
So it tackles the ripple effects, not just the direct symptoms.
Precisely. And the review said CBT can be great as an alternative or addition to meds, especially for things like social skills, self-control, emotional management.
Did the research show it works?
Yeah, studies showed CBT, alone or with meds, improved inattention, hyperactivity, impulsivity. The combo might be even better for executive function sometimes.
And mindfulness-based CBT.
Also promising, according to the review, for improving attention, working memory, attentional control.
Okay, so pulling this all together, it really sounds like, yes, ADHD brings unique challenges to relationships, no doubt.
For sure.
But fulfilling strong connections are absolutely possible.
Totally achievable. It takes that commitment, though. Understanding, effort from both people using these kinds of strategies.
Open communication, empathy, seeking support when you need it.
All crucial, individually and as a couple.
And really seeing both sides, right? The challenges and the unique strengths ADHD brings, that seems key to making it thrive.
Absolutely. Which kind of leads us to a final thought, maybe something for you, the listener, to chew on.
Yeah.
What if we shifted the focus, moved away from just looking at individual deficits, and started focusing more on the unique dynamics, the specific strengths that exist within these neurodiverse partnerships?
How might that unlock new ways to succeed in the relationship?
Yeah. And maybe even redefine what we think of as traditional relationship advice when ADHD is part of the picture.